weirdos! You are listening to and hopefully watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, eerie, musical, cursed, paranormal, monstrous, haunted, nautical, and everything in between. Each episode, we sit down together from across the country and we talk about something weird. And this week, here in July already, hello, how, who, and why? It is July already, my goodness. This week, this episode is no exception. We are making sure to squeeze in some spooky stories from our last listener episode that didn't quite make it in as we promised you, and we are getting into some more cursed tombs for the first time in a long time somehow, which sounds wrong. Also, maybe hunting a few monsters. It is getting wild, woolly, and of course, super weird, as always, so let's get into it. My name is Lauren, and this is my beautiful co-host, Ashley.
Hi, weirdos. Look at what I have from
July.
the grocery store.
Oh, you're so cute having a prop because tomorrow is Independence Day, 4th of July.
It was 55 cents, and it was honestly worth 10, maybe.
But worth every pen. Well, you know, it was worth 10. She paid 55, whatever it is. Man, I don't have anything USA to offer.
Come on, tomorrow's the 4th of July. Which really, like, this is how I feel this year.
I know. That's the thing. I feel like I remember it hitting 4th of July in 2020 when the pandemic had hit and Trump was still president for only a little bit longer. But I remember 4th of July hitting and just the depression of everything. We were like, happy
America Day, I guess. Happy birthday, America. You don't deserve a birthday this year, America.
I know.
We're
really
sick of it, America.
But I'm still gonna eat a hot dog.
I bought hot dogs at the store today when I bought this time.
I know. And I feel like that is the beauty of sort of, I guess, living in America. You can feel both things. Listen, some things are going fine. We have traditions, but I'm upset with you.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed.
And mad, actually.
You were out past curfew, America, is how we are feeling, and we're just disappointed.
I feel like America's been out past curfew, been pushing its fucking limits, and we just got a call from the police station saying that America's been arrested, and we have to go bail.
They're finally in jail.
And it's like, God damn it. I told you to be home by midnight. I have something, this fun little update in my life. It's not really an update in my life, but my mom has been cleaning out my childhood home. And she has found a treasure trove of old photos that we assumed have been lost to time. And in these photos, yes, earlier this week, I sent you one of them. Earlier this week is the photo of my sister and I one Halloween. I've told this story on the show. One year, I think this was 1997, I was going as Ghostface from Scream, and my sister was going as an adorable mouse. But my mom made me a plastic knife, and she painted red blood on it. And my sister really wanted a knife too, so she ended up being a cute little mouse with a bloody knife, and actually ended up being kind of way scarier than me as Ghostface.
A psycho killer mouse. Yeah, she surpassed every horrifying Halloween costume, even though she was trying to be cute.
But that is not all. I'm sending you the gold mine. Once again, a story that I've told on the show before. This is from my 2nd grade Girl Scouts mother-daughter tea.
This was what they showed up to at the mother-daughter tea. This is typical. Just typical.
Not lying when I tell you every other little girl there was a princess or a fairy or a nurse or a pumpkin. And my mom and I...
way better than what I imagined.
So
I will never be
I was naturally I was the crypt keeper for Halloween. And the crypt keeper, the rotting corpse from the rated R
I know, and I'm
TV
sad
show.
you're like a little washed out, and I'm sad about it because like you can tell like the detail is phenomenal.
I will put the
God,
it's actually a fuzzy
so
picture regardless because I don't
I
think
know
cameras
you're
were
washed
that
out in
good
the
in
actual. I
1996.
know, which is fair, but you can just tell it's so like good indeed. Oh my
I was the
God.
crypt keeper. That was my costume that year. And she obviously wouldn't let me go out alone. So she found the scariest mask I've ever seen.
She sure did.
And she dressed in my dad's coveralls, and we showed up to this very sweet mother-daughter event looking like this. And
Wouldn't have it any other way, you know?
no, what a great memory. I even told my mom when she sent me that, I was like, Mom, you were the best. Like,
Which I
1996,
love
I was
that.
8 years old. How did I have any business knowing who the Crypt Keeper was?
Mm-hmm.
And showing up to terrorize the other Girl Scouts. They were legitimately scared too.
Absolutely terrorize like the Princess Peach and yeah, the My Little Pony, and then you're like, "Hello, I'm the Crypt Keeper."
Well, my mom's so great. She literally wouldn't talk. And like to scare the kids even more, she like wouldn't talk. She would just shake and nod her head. And those
Which is
those little
even
girls were
better.
terrified.
Gosh, Pam.
Yeah. That was a good memory.
Pam
So
did it right. And I feel like we've talked about this on the pod before because you've said, like, hey, what are you gonna do to introduce Wilder to scary movies? Like, as a mom, how are you gonna ease him into it? And I feel like my response to you was like, I hope to do the Pam and just like it's gonna
let
be on
him
TV
find
one
the
day and kind of see his
interest.
response. Which unfortunately, I
Hasn't
love my
happened yet.
child,
It's
but
okay.
it's showing. I feel like the little things that I've like tried to tiptoe into and expose him to, he's not doing well with his reactions, so I've slowed my roll and I haven't showed him the Crypt Keeper or anything too intense.
Well,
But Josie,
he's 5.
on the other hand, Julie, I know he's 5, and but even so, like I know other like Josie at 5 had been exposed to Poltergeist,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
think one of the Scream movies, I know, which I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Julie's gonna write in and be like, "What?" But no, like I know she would have stuff on just kind of in the background, and Josie would be like fully into it and ready to go. So I know spooky
It's
little kids do
giving
exist.
scaredy cat.
I know. My husband.
That's what happens. That's the danger of procreating
With like a
with
Mr.
scaredy
Rogers
cat.
type. He is Mr. Rogers.
I mean, Joe doesn't like horror movies. He watches them because he knows I love them, and like, but
He's not as scared.
he's not scared. No, he's just mostly like, "Why do you watch this?"
Yeah, like you're sick.
He's like, "Can we take a break from death and murder and dying and death?" And I'm like, "Ugh, I guess." And then we end up watching like 2020, which is all about murder and death and dying and death.
Alex is so sweet in that, like, every year on my birthday, he'll be like, okay, like, we can watch, like, a horror movie that I can handle. He can do, like, the Screams. He can do, like, the Freaky Friday horror movie that came out, the ones that are, like, comedy.
Yeah.
Wrapped in horror. He can do those, which I'm like, hey, there's still some jumpy scenes in there. So I give it to him. And I do appreciate that is the compromise in our marriage. But I do feel bad that we watched The Ring one year at one of our like
I was
Halloween
there.
movie nights. So we hosted with friends like you were, and he had to
stood
like
in the back.
he just stood in the back, and he was but like talking to him after, he was like,
that was good.
Like
but...
the first time he was like, it's good. He's like, it is good, and like I like the story and the twist. But he was like, he had seen it before, like when it first came out, and he was like, I still like think about the first time I saw that movie, and I was like, oh my God, he is psychologically affected. So anyway, I do feel a little.
Alex, you're not special. We all still think about The Ring.
Yeah, I didn't sleep for months, so it's fine.
All right, well, let's get into
Anyway.
it. Hi, hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
I've
How
got
you doing?
my door counting voice going, which we will get to later. But first,
oh my God, this is turning into our like gardening episode. She keeps making me laugh, and I haven't done anything.
Well, I have. First, we're gonna take a trip into a paranormal paradise. This was Are we positive that you didn't garden? You've been laughing. I think
this is
so
lack of
hard.
sleep. Your whistle at the end of Paranormal Paradise. I think I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah,
okay.
it's been 2 weeks. As promised, I had one more scary story to share that we didn't have time for last week.
Very excited.
This is actually a story that I stumbled upon on Reddit Paranormal, which is a community where people post their firsthand paranormal experiences, often to seek advice, but sometimes just for a good scare. This post in particular caught my attention right away, and I'm so glad it did. I saved it. Like randomly, I copied it and pasted it in my notes immediately because I was like, I'm going to tell this story. And I'm so glad I did because it got taken down because Reddit moderators can be a little out of control. Let's be honest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so happy to hear that you were that smart to copy it down because I've had times where I will favorite or save. I'm like, okay, I have to come back to the story, and then I'll come back and somebody's deleted it. Yeah. So I'm like,
son of a bitch.
Anyway,
well, it was the moderators that deleted it because I reached out to the Redditor and I spoke with him and he gave me permission to tell his story, but he never said how he wanted it credited. So I'm using his Reddit name and I hope it's fine. So Reddit user Army Jackson. The post was taken down because he mentions that he was drinking at the time this happened, which is apparently against some rule, even though I couldn't find the rule. Anyway,
what?
Army Jackson, interesting. I've got your back. I'm on your side. It was bullshit.
We're with you. That's BS.
Army Jackson says, when I was 19, I drank, among other things, at a party. And that's usually why people discredit this story. But it wasn't my first time partying, and it was a typical experience aside from this one thing. When I had to use the restroom, I opened the door to what I thought was the bathroom, and all I saw was a long set of narrow wooden stairs that went down to the basement to a concrete floor. It was the middle of summer, but there was a huge rush of cold air, and I shut the door. I turned around and I asked someone where the bathroom was, and they said you were just standing at the door. Thinking I was being picked on, I got angry and I was like, no, that's the basement. And the guy was like, this is my house. That's the bathroom. I don't have a basement. And he walked by me, swung the door open, and the stairs were gone. And there was a bathroom.
No.
I thought it was a crazy experience. I've told people about it through the years. I know what I saw because I remember thinking, wow, those stairs are steep. I'm glad I didn't take a step in and fall.
Right.
Fast forward 20-something years, and I get a call from a stranger that my mom was staying with in another state. She turned out to be a friend of my mom's from childhood that was giving her a place to stay before being put into assisted living. She let me know that my mom had died after opening a door that she thought was a bathroom, but was in fact steps to the basement. She said that they had taped off the door, but my mom had terrible eyesight, opened the door, took a step, and fell down the stairs. And she ended up dying on the way to the hospital. When I traveled to pick up my mom's stuff from this woman's house that I had never been to, she showed me where my mom had fallen. She opened the door, and it was the exact same, way too long and too steep set of stairs leading down to the basement with a concrete floor. I felt a rush of cold air when she opened it because it was cold outside. I had chills. It was exactly the same set of stairs that I had seen in my mind during that party. I am sure of it.
What?
What? Army Jackson, what?
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 Okay, this is I guess getting a glimpse of a timeline, but I feel like it's getting a glimpse into a timeline of a totally different house, and not the house that he was in when he was partying. He was having a prophetic
it was a vision of,
I don't know,
a place,
the exact staircase, and feeling the cold air.
I think it's interesting too that it was a place that wouldn't really be, I mean, it's important to him, obviously his mom died there, but
right,
He wasn't the one that almost fell down the stairs years later. His mom fell down those stairs. I don't know. It just seems like fate was like giving him a glimpse of these stairs that would change his life. And here's the thing.
That would eventually take his mom.
I don't know what kind of relationship he had with his mom. He obviously didn't live in the same state as his mom. Like, who knows? Maybe. Yeah. But fucking what?
I know, I just keep thinking, like, excuse who? Wow. I've never heard anything like that.
No,
that is
so
fascinating.
Crazy. And I get what he's saying, where it's like, yes, I had been drinking. Yes, I had done other stuff. But there is a difference. Like, I've had like weird experiences when I've had a few drinks, but I know what a few drinks does to me. I know what a few drinks mixed with some other stuff does to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's out of the ordinary. And seeing a set of stairs that don't exist is a little out of the ordinary. Yeah.
That is outside of anything I have ever felt from fun time experiences with certain things.
I've never drank enough at a party to step into another dimension.
A portal. Yeah, like a portal. A door to another dimension. My goodness, that is wild.
Thank you for letting us share that story, Army Jackson. He wasn't asking for, advice or anything. He was just sort of telling this crazy thing that happened to him. But I'm glad you're not asking for advice, because I wouldn't know what to tell you.
Because who knows? What on earth?
I'm reading a book right now that maybe will explain it. This is my new paranormal read.
The Supernatural.
The Supernatural, Why the Unexplained is Real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking about something I very much so believe in, which is that the UFOs, paranormal, Bigfoot, ghosts, I don't think that it's like something crazy that like can't exist. I think it's a very natural part of our world. I think UFOs, ghosts, and Bigfoot, from historical evidence, have existed since the beginning of time. So maybe it has something to do with our consciousness. Yes. We're the only conscious beings on the planet. Maybe it's in here. I don't know, but whatever.
Right. Ooh, I hope you learn a lot from that book. And shout out to the bonus episode that Julia and I did this month, because we were telling some spooky stories, trying to be in line with our ghost stories episode. We are continuing on that, but we are going into specifically events where somebody was contacted by phone, whether cell phone or house phone or like work phone, by the beyond, which we've touched on before, but we were just like reading stories and discussing. Yeah. But one of the things that I found while looking at my stories was an actual like scientific article that just came out last year, which I was like, ooh, I'm going to have to like bring this to the actual pod, because I did a very like skim for me and Julia. But we talked about how there are scientists out there who like fully believe that something is going on with phones because of the electronics of it all, and contacting the other side. Not saying that it's necessarily a ghost when they say the other side, but just like we're contacting something that is either like mimicking a loved one's voice or it's them in another dimension. But I was like, there are some scientists who believe in this, but they were saying that of like, we don't have all we need to study this, but like we're at the very beginning stages and fully believe in this.
It's just modern day work in EVPs. Like they used to do it with recording devices 1,000%. And radios, and now we have other electronics that are still fucking picking up something that shouldn't be there.
1,000%.
We're still getting voices. We're still getting voices from the beyond. It's awesome.
And sometimes it's like your grandma saying something that only your grandma would know, and you're like, but
huh? What? Huh?
Yeah, I just...
Yeah.
Can't.
Listen.
So, along those same lines of stories we couldn't fit into last week's episode, where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? No. Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? No, sorry, I got really into the snap, and I started thinking about our gardening episode when you told me about a snap. I can't even think about it, Ashley. I can't talk about it. Nope. Okay, so my story that I also couldn't fit into last week, we could have called it Paranormal Paradise, but we did Where in the World is Keep It Weird going because I mentioned this, but Haunted Door County is a book that my sweet Door Count a book that my sweet parents sent me, and I always like to give my shout out to Jeff and Jane and how they've become so open-minded about the paranormal and the hauntings, and of course they were like, did you know it's so haunted in Door County, Wisconsin, which before they went there on a trip I didn't know existed. I feel like a bad Midwesterner.
No, I don't know what Door County, Wisconsin is. I don't even know where Wisconsin is.
I know, I barely know, but I know it's north
close
and it's
to
usually
us.
cold, but it's close. It's above Illinois, but I mean, Door County is out like on a peninsula and is like known for like seeing some boats and stuff. So I was like, that's further away. We are going to specifically the Sherwood Point Lighthouse, even though like all of Door County is pretty spooky. So like we could do like a deeper dive, and I hope I bring more stories, but the Sherwood Point Lighthouse is located on the Green Bay side of the Ship Canal near Idlewild, Wisconsin. Which finally, somebody said Green Bay, and I was like, I've know that is the name of a football team. And I didn't know it was a place.
Here's the thing, though. Is there a lighthouse on Earth that isn't haunted? Name one.
Precisely. I just didn't know there was one. Name them.
Name them.
Name them. Name them.
Name them. Name them. Well, what you did was ridiculous. Name them. Not having. Well, be quiet. So let me talk. Jesus. Name them.
That is true. However, I just was like, Door County, Wisconsin, where you at? Like, this just excited me because it's Midwest and I'm Midwest garbage and I get excited about these things. All right. So it was built to help mariners enter Sturgeon Bay from Green Bay, and it was completed in 1883. It is the only Door County lighthouse built with red brick, which apparently is a big deal.
Well,
it is 35 feet tall. It's a sturdy guy. In 1983, the light did become automated, but until then, it was the last manned lighthouse on the Great Lakes.
Wow.
Of all the Great Lakes. So I thought that
was
pretty
probably
cool.
manned because it was so fucking old.
Because it was so fucking old and it had to be manned, but it did become automated in the 80s, just like the others. But I liked that it stood. It was like the last one. And the facility still is operated today as a rest and recuperation area for active members of the U.S. military on a rental basis. The Coast Guard comes in there and still uses it, but otherwise it is closed to the public, and you can walk on like a little trail around it and take pictures, but you can't go in there. You used to be able to stay there prior to the 80s, I think, when it became automated, because the light keepers were also like innkeepers, and they would be like, come stay.
Come stay, I'll make you eggs in the morning.
But to know just like a tiny bit of history before I get into the story, in the fall of 1884, 1 year after the completion of the lighthouse, a woman named Minnie Hesh from Brooklyn, New York, came to Sherwood Point after the death of her parents. She fell in love with this region. She really liked being close to the water and just enjoyed the peacefulness of it all. So she decided to stay. She married a man named William Cockums 5 years later, and they became light keepers of the Sherwood Point Lighthouse. Minnie passed away in 1928. Sadly, she is memorialized by a small marker on the little trail that is northeast of the lighthouse, which is really cute. And Sherwood Point was the last manned lighthouse, as I said. So anyway, people who used to be able to stay there claimed that they would hear strange noises at night. They heard voices. They heard clinking teacups. It was a very specific teacup clink, which was interesting. Some have seen apparitions of a man in the windows. Others believe they see the apparition of Minnie and like her famous high bun or else short haircut that she also rocked at one point. They all believe they're seeing something, someone. Even the Coast Guard members, who are now the only ones allowed to see it, all say they feel like they experience things, but they always say, well, it seems like a nice spirit or visitor, whatever it may be. So they're like, we're not really mad about it. But I just wanted to read a story from one of the most famous documentations that came from a Coast Guard man and his wife who stayed there. So now I am reading from the book, and here we get to the story. So the Coast Guardsman and his wife arrived at the station for a long-anticipated vacation. The couple was eager to see the sights around the peninsula, and after a hurried dinner, they rushed out, leaving dirty dishes on the table and in the sink. They just had to get to the trip. When they returned much later in the evening, exhausted by their busy day, they decided to leave the mess for the morning. As soon as they fell into bed, however, they were startled by the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Next, they heard very clearly a woman's laugh and the sound of dishes clattering. They were aware of the legend of Minnie Hesh, that lightskeeper from before. Indeed, she's quite well known amongst the Coast Guard personnel, but hearing a ghost story and actually living it are two quite different things. They were terrified. The couple huddled in bed, torn between fascination and fear. And then finally, the husband, summoning all of the macho courage he could manage, shouted out, "Damn it, Minnie! If you're going to make so much noise with the dishes, you could at least wash them." To their surprise, the noises stopped. After a long while of anxiety, they finally fell asleep. Perhaps they told themselves that they had imagined the whole thing after a long and busy first day of vacation. But then, the next day, they awoke and stumbled into the kitchen for coffee. The kitchen was spotless. No. All the dinner dishes had been washed and put away. The counter and table wiped down and pristine. Only one china teacup and saucer that had been removed from the cabinet was placed carefully at the table's edge. Minnie's presence had been there, and it was so well documented in Coast Guard logs that in 2008, the Coast Guard supplied surveillance equipment and authorized the Northern Alliance of Paranormal Investigators to spend a weekend at the station and see what they could find. Although the team did record the sound of an unidentified woman's voice talking and laughing, the audio mysteriously reformatted and disappeared when they tried to replay it for others. Video equipment also seemed to malfunction at crucial times. In the end, each of the 8 investigators heard or felt Minnie's presence, but they were unable to capture any hard evidence that the mass public would believe. As usual, Minnie seems to be enjoying the last laugh. Haunted Dorcan. Dorcan! I like that, though. I think it's fun. I want to go to that lighthouse.
Absolutely. And I think that maybe the reason lighthouses are always so haunted is because they're always built on rocks. And there's always, there's so much kinetic energy. There's so much water. Does that work if it's waves crashing as opposed to like a river running?
No. Well, but who knows? That's what I'm saying.
Who knows? Yeah, the ocean's also a very iffy place, if you know what I'm saying.
Don't get me started on the ocean. I'm already twitching a little bit. It's just not even, let's not touch on that right now.
Yeah, lighthouses are kind of our worst nightmare because they are a haunted house on the ocean.
Truly, but similar to
every one of them.
Squatching or squamping, as we're going to do, squamping one day. Mm-hmm. I do feel like touring a haunted lighthouse, dare I say, like at night, I'm gonna throw up, or going like close to it, since you can't go into this one anymore. I'm like that. That is fascinating, interesting, and something we should probably do.
I guarantee there's lighthouse Airbnbs. And like I said, they're all haunted, so we'll just pick one. It could be a nice one, a shitty one, a scary one. They're all going to have ghosts. And you might be able to see a shark from the window.
Well, if I could see it from a distance and see that chalky shark,
sandpaper skin.
we learned that sandpaper scratchy shark. Okay, well, enough about lighthouses in the ocean.
Lord,
I
love that.
I know.
Maybe I'll go to Door County.
I know. I feel like it could be a fun.
Never heard of it.
But that's the thing. They said it was quirky and weird. It had very keep Austin weird vibes for Wisconsin.
Ooh,
Okay. So,
all right.
Artsy,
maybe I'm in.
spooky fun.
Maybe I'm in.
Keep it weird.
And that's a thick book. That's a thick book. That's not a pamphlet, okay? That's thick.
Again, I could do like much more as I'm like fanning through it.
Let's start a new podcast where we just read the book Haunted
Door County. And they even mentioned Peoria in it. So like, good job, Peoria. Way to go.
Love that for Peoria.
Shout out.
I sent you something recently about Peoria. What was it?
Did you?
Yes. It was a really cool secondhand shop in Peoria that exists only on donations because everything in the shop is free. You can leave with whatever you need. Clothing, home decor, kitchen item. It's just like a Goodwill. But everything in there,
I was like, this is
you
amazing.
just go in and you take for free. Obviously, if you have money to give them a donation and take your things.
Then
like,
give it.
They're not saying like everyone that comes in here has to have no money to give. Like, give them money. They live off of money. But if someone was in need and had no money, they could just go in and, you know what? I should get a name for it before I just
that was beautiful.
Give this whole.
I know. I was like, we need to give them a proper shout out. And also, I was like, I want to remember the name because yes, I do remember this and being like, this is so sweet. But I wanted to tell Sweet Jane, who, I mean, good timing. We just referenced her about it because this is like so up her alley. I feel like she's now going to be like, can I go volunteer there?
It's called Enough Stuff. One word. Enough Stuff.
Oh, that's like the perfect
And you
name.
can go to at Enough Stuff Club on Instagram and TikTok or www.enoughstuffclub.com. You can donate what you can, or if you're in Peoria, you can pop in and get yourself some goodies. Okay. It's time for a monster watch.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks.
This week's Monster Watch is inspired by some of our podcasting friends, the Mothboys.
Oh, those sweet old Mothboys.
The Mothboys podcast is made up of Matt, Mike, and Jake. Their show is all about cryptids. They also do conspiracies. They also do hauntings, etc., etc., but main focus is on cryptids. They also host the annual Cryptid Bash. This year it's in Pittsburgh in August.
Okay.
And they've written a few books on the subject of cryptozoology as well. The boys wrote a great little book called The White Monsters of Sherman, New York, about some extremely strange sightings in the 60s of what can only be described as giant land sloths.
What?
In the United States.
Giant land sloths?
Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge and I'm thinking
maybe big sloths. Okay, what? How big are the sloths? Are they cute like I'm imagining, or are they
no giant land sloths as in like the size of a rhinoceros? Land sloths,
okay.
like prehistoric land sloths.
Oh, no thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Which again in my head is, you know, the ghost of a fucking dinosaur, the ghost of a. There can be dinosaur ghosts. Loch Ness Monster. Maybe that's a dinosaur ghost.
Damn. Okay, I don't like this, but keep going.
Thunderbird. Maybe that's a dinosaur. Okay. So Matt Shang has an upcoming book. I had the pleasure of reading it early, and I'll keep you guys posted on it. I'm not sure how much I can say about it, but I do know I can say it's called Wonders of the Void, and it slaps. And Mike Strayer wrote a children's book based on the monster that I'm going to talk about today. And the book is called Curious Creatures, The Vegetable Man. And
the Vegetable Man.
Today.
Wait, that's the perfect name for a kid's book.
About the Vegetable Man.
Oh my goodness, this feels like a story I can share with Wilder, except
you can't. It's actually terrifying.
No. Okay, great. But I love that it's Vegetable Man.
As are most of the weirdest cryptid experiences in the United States, this does take place in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm thinking maybe we should quarantine the whole state.
Truly, it does feel like...
America does need a wall, and it needs to be around West Virginia.
We've been trying to put a wall up at the wrong space. It's West Virginia, everybody.
Mothman.
No, truly though, what's going on?
Veggie Man. What's the other one?
I don't know.
With the bulb head.
You don't need to say anymore because Mothman and Vegetable Man are enough. Mothman is enough.
Unlike West Virginia's most famous cryptid, the Mothman, the Veggie Man did not have hundreds of witnesses, just a guy and his mom. But their story was so terrifying and so strange that it caught the attention of Gray Barker. He was a writer known for his books about UFOs and other paranormal phenomena. Most famously, his 1956 book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, which was the world's very first introduction to the Men in Black.
Ooh.
We never heard of them. The public had never heard of them before that book came out.
No way!
Yeah.
Okay, so we're very into this.
The book focused on Albert K. Bender, who was a ufologist and founder of the International Flying Saucer Bureau. The IFSB was abruptly dissolved in 1953 when Albert claimed he could not continue writing about UFOs because of, quote, orders from a higher source. And that's where They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers comes in to describe his experiences when these black-suited men showed up, scared the shit out of him, made him physically sick for days afterwards just by being in their presence, and he also suffered frequent headaches for years after the event. We've talked about this on the show a lot. Like, Men in Black are not human. They are...
Yeah, this isn't just old Steve from HR.
Yeah. It's not like an actual branch of government. It's like a
right, because I think that's what people imagine.
Yeah,
but,
it's like CIA, the NSA, the MIB, the FBI.
It's Will Smith in a black suit. That is not, but yeah.
No, they are not from
Important
Earth.
to remember.
At least not all of them. Some of them are. Anyways... And there's also like kind of a lot of drama surrounding Gray Barker. And I might get to that in like a later episode, but just know that a lot of people question his motives. They question whether or not he was a hoaxer.
Okay.
And therefore the validity of the Veggie Man story is doubted altogether. But according to the people that experienced it, it's very real.
Very real. Yeah. Okay.
So, according to Jennings H. Frederick, he and his mother, Iva, the Veggie Man, is extremely real, and they were quite scared of him. Iva, the mother, didn't have a direct experience, but she did see the creature on more than one occasion. Once she saw it shoveling grass and dirt into a bag that it was carrying.
That's eerie and unsettling.
Weird.
Okay.
She thought it was a child until it stood up, and she said it had to be over 6.5 feet tall.
No, thank you.
She also claimed to have witnessed it going inside a craft that then flew off into the sky. So that's crazy enough.
Right.
But it doesn't hold a candle.
You could end there.
to what Jennings experienced in 1968. Jennings was in the woods around Fairmont, West Virginia. He was hunting when he heard a strange noise. He said it sounded like a record player sped up, almost like a high-pitched jabbering. He started following it, and as he approached, the jabbering got louder and increased, and he was able to make out the words, which were,
"You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend. We know of you all. I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. I need your help."
But like all sped up, like a record being played really fast.
And that's what they were hearing?
Yeah, that's what he was hearing.
Still.
It was like a high-pitched voice, like, "You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend." Like,
I would just pass out. I would be unwell for the rest of my life. I would never be okay again.
He said it sounded like it was right next to him, but he couldn't see where it was coming from. It was like nothing was there.
No.
But then, as he was hearing these sounds, couldn't see what was making them, but knew it was like right in front of him somewhere, his arm got caught on a patch of brambles. But when he looked down at his arm, he realized that what he thought were thorny branches was actually a 3-fingered hand that was green like a plant and the fingers were about 7 inches long.
Go on.
This is like that Goosebumps. What's Dad doing in the basement, or whatever the fuck that one was called. Remember? What's Dad up to in the basement?
Is that the title? That sounds horrible. That shouldn't be the title.
And it had a door and like a dad, like the creepy plant hand.
I know exactly which book you mean, and I do think like that could be the name, but that nowadays just sounds so bad. What's Dad doing in the basement?
What's Dad up to in the basement?
Something horrible. Oh my god.
Hold on, let me see. I bet if I type in Goosebumps Plant Dad, it's called Stay Out of the Basement. And
so you made it horrifying. But look at those hands.
Are you kidding? Stay out of the basement? What's Dad up to in the basement? Anyways.
That makes it sound terrible. I'm trying to have long fingers along with my
long plant-like thorny fingers. And here's the thing. It gets scarier. So
no, Ashley. Rude.
The fingers had needle-like tips that were suctioning his arm. They attached themselves to his arm. Like they dug into his arm, and he felt the pain of the needles in his arm. And he claims he even heard like a suctiony sucking sound and knew that it was sucking blood out of his arm through its finger needles. He said the creature was like the stalk of a huge plant. It looked like something he could just snap in half, but it was unusually strong. And at some point, the creature looked at him, and the creature's eyes turned from yellow to a reddish color as they began to like spin. And as he looked into these creatures' eyes, he felt the pain leave his arm, like he was being hypnotized.
Whoa.
And then as soon as it began, it ended. The transfusion, he called it a transfusion, lasted about 1 minute. And then he said the creature released him and ran up the hill, covering about 25 feet or more in each leap.
Nope, that's too big of a stride.
Too big of a stride, not a human stride. He called it a modern spring-heeled jack.
Whoa. Okay.
So do you remember spring-heeled jack that would like jump over the, whew. As he sat on the ground, stunned, he said that he heard a deep humming from the other side of a hill in the direction the creature ran off to. But to this day, this encounter in 1968 is the only sighting that we know of the Veggie Man. But how the fuck would you know? He looks like a tree.
He looks like a fucking
tree. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know if you saw him.
Oh, I can't. That is so upsetting. I didn't like it.
The only people that see them are when they need our human blood and they attack us and they drink it or suck it or whatever.
I was in need. Like, I am a surprise veggie tree vampire.
I do think the Veggie Man should have asked for consent, but to be fair, Agreed. He did say, I need your help.
I need your help. Medical assistant.
Medical assistant. I need your help. We come in peace.
Yeah, I'm going to respond well to that. Veggie, sir.
Are you ready for a bit of synchronicity?
I guess.
This is cool. So like I said earlier, I didn't know about the Veggie Man until last month. Mothman Matt wrote the book, Wonders of the Void, which again, I had the honor of reading. And it was the first time I'd ever read anything that referenced the Veggie Man. So I immediately added Veggie Man to my upcoming episode topic spreadsheet. Mm. And since then, we've done our divination episodes. Yeah. We've done our special gardening birthday episode, our listener ghost stories. So finally, we're back to our regular scheduled programming, and I could finally share the story of the Veggie Man. Today is July 3rd. Mm-hmm. This episode will be released on July 12th. The day after that, so for anyone who is listening on release day, tomorrow, July 13th, is the first ever Veggie Man Day.
No.
It's going to be held at the Frank and Jane Gabor, West Virginia Folk Life Center in Fairmont, West Virginia. The Mothboys are hosting, because of course they are.
Of course they are.
It's a little fest. There's going to be art vendors, food trucks. There's going to be free veggie snacks for everyone. There's going to be exclusive Veggie Man merchandise.
The free veggies reminds me of, this is like such a specific, weird, like niche joke that I'm going to make, but it reminds me of the Parks and Rec episode where vegetables are trying to be hip in Pawnee, and the people who at like the farmer's market every weekend have chard. They try to make chard like hot, and they like hire dancers, and one of them is like, chard, it's so bitter, in like her sexy voice into the microphone. And you just reminded me of that when you were like, they're free veggies. I'm like imagining the people at the carts being like, right? Broccoli?
Free veggies that we can't give away.
Sorry, that was a total side note, but vegetables. Oh my God. That is so... Of course, it is the first annual one the day after we're releasing this. Like, what?
Excuse me?
Veggie Man.
Hey, I know this is the latest notice you could possibly be getting, but if you're in West Virginia, check it out. Find the Mothboys. Tell them they're amazing. Tell them Keep It Weird loves them. And thanks for teaching us about the Veggie Man. Keep it alive. Keep it alive, boys.
Keep it alive. Keep it weird and keep it alive. Let's go, Veggie Man. Weird. Oh, my Lanta.
The Veggie Man of West Virginia. What the fuck is that other West Virginia cryptid? It's huge. It's like one of the biggest cryptids ever.
I know about it?
Yeah, you do. The Flatwoods Monster.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. And the Grafton Monster. God, they have so many. They have something called the Sheep Squatch.
Okay, well, that's where we're going.
That's a sight to see. Squamping. We got to find the Sheep Squatch.
Sheep Squatch is just fun to say.
So you can just add Squatch after anything.
Pig Squatch.
So does that make Sasquatch like a really sassy Squatch?
A little sassy Squatch we got over there with the Sheep Squatch. Sass. Okay.
The time has come for this fucking segment.
I know, and it's probably going to be disappointing. It's really so long. Might be disappointing. Anyway, this segment, insert Ashley's playlist here of me singing it, is Cursed Crooners. Beware of ballads that can invade your brain. Make no mistake of the melodies that cause pain. Tune out the tunes that cause you to quiver. Hymns that haunt are sure to send a shiver. Cursed crooners and spooky songs. Crooked covers and scary sing-alongs. Cold courses and sordid sonnets. Crazy cantors and sinful soloists. Cursed crooners and spooky songs. And spooky songs. Cursed crooners and spooky songs. The Curse of the Ninth Symphony. This is a very popular one. It is also one that people like to debunk, but like, they're no fun, David. Like, they are not fun.
David, no, fun. Listen, this show is about fun, and if you're going to debunk something, debunk
That's exactly right. Well, like, you even got into it with, like, the cryptids before, and it's like, oh, people will like to say it's the... I don't give a shit.
Don't care. To me, it's a curse.
It's forever a curse. And, yeah, I'll get into it, but...
Now, the Ninth Symphony, is that like the Ninth Symphony that we all know and love?
What is the Ninth Symphony that you all know and love?
I don't know. It sounds like something that we would all know. Like, is it like Ludwig von Beethoven?
Yes. Well, that's the thing is, like, any composer can have a Ninth Symphony, so that's why I asked. But Beethoven's is
I
most,
see.
Yes.
Okay.
But Beethoven is the most well-known. Yes, it is. That is the Ninth Symphony that you think of.
That's kind of shitty, though, that you can just be like, this is the Ninth Symphony. It's like, we've had a Ninth Symphony.
Other people have done
call it something else. We have to think of a new episode name every single week of our life for the last 8 years. And you're going to name this symphony you created the ninth one. Get out of fucking town.
But when
Get
you're
out of
Beethoven,
town.
I just feel like you can do whatever
Beethoven
you want.
Schmeethoven.
Beethoven's a dog. to me. That's all I care
Did you
about.
know?
Bernie's Mountain Dog, baby. Put a little barrel around his neck. Okay.
Bernie's Mountain Dog? No. Beethoven was
Or was he?
It's a St. Bernard.
Oh, yeah. Bernie's Mountain Dogs are like their cousins.
Yeah, I think Bernie's Mountain Dogs are a little less saggy in the face.
They are, and they have a lot more black
fluffy
on their fur.
I like Beethoven's second because there's so many Beethoven puppies in that one. There's so many little St. Bernard puppies.
Pups. But also, like, how clever, Beethoven's second, which is like a little nod to like composition and music, and I think that's really fun. Anyway, the Ninth Symphony. Go watch the Beethoven movies if you've never seen them. That's what this is really all about.
This episode's sponsored by Beethoven.
So a symphony, first of all, because, and this is a lesson for myself, so this is not me being like, I'm a singer, so like, let's teach you. No, I literally had to be like, how do you define a symphony? Because I feel like I'm always just like, yeah, what is the orchestra, you know. A symphony is an orchestra's large-scale musical composition, usually requiring 50 to 80 instruments. And symphonies do refer to the music, not the musicians, which is where I was wrong, because I'm like, I'm going to go see the symphony. Like, that's something I would say to Alex, of like, are we going to go listen to the symphony, thinking of the people? But it's actually the type of music. So again, schooled.
All right.
Similar to stage plays, they may have several movements or acts that are often complex and elaborate classical music. And the standard classical era symphony was written for an orchestra of wind and string, and it was composed in 4 movements, a very fast first movement in sonata allegro form, to get technical for people out there who actually know what I'm saying. A slow second movement, a mid-tempo minuet and trio, and then a fast closing movement to wrap things up. And that would be your symphony, played with all of these instruments, usually 50 to 80 instruments.
How long are they usually?
I mean, a couple of hours.
Like when you say symphony, well, I didn't know if it was like, this is my 9th symphony and it's like a 6-minute song.
I do think they can vary, but I feel like a 6-minute would be way too short for like the things you have to go through. Like, I feel like it is like a play or a ballet, but I mean, what?
No, I just thought of a sped up symphony like yeah.
Oh, yes. In the Romantic period in the 19th century, the Curse of the Ninth Symphony was born. So here we come to the curse part of it. There are absolutely people who say it's garbage and it's not real, as I said, because composers have now to this day written hundreds of symphonies. So in that respect, yes, you can say, well, the curse is not real then.
Curses don't happen to everyone.
And that is my point. That's why Ashley's my partner on this podcast. Because the internet is so annoying about this curse.
Be like the curse of 27, which is, you know, like Kurt Cobain and we lost
I'm like, everybody. Be still my heart, because that is what I compared it to.
Not every genius musician dies at 27, but a good amount of them do. You know what I mean? So it doesn't happen to everybody.
I'm crying at just my partner finishing my sentences, which I'm sure a lot of you weirdos are out there finishing it as well. But literally my notes say, fair enough to everyone who thinks it's garbage, but the 19th century classical curse is that version of today's 27 Club. Is what I literally put in my notes. So yeah, a shit ton of musicians lived past 27, we know, but the amount that did pass away,
it's weird.
Is very weird. And they were all like somewhat connected, or like a lot of them had like some weird lines going through them where like similar things happened, or they knew the same person or were at similar events. And it was all just kind of like, well, this is too weird to ignore. That is exactly how the Ninth Symphony curse is. And so like, yes, many composers have gone on to do hundreds and hundreds of symphonies. That is totally normal, but it is still a superstition or a jinx or something that musicians are afraid of to this day. Classical musicians who are composing and like, you know, taking part in any kind of symphony, they still think about it and are like, I don't know if I want to do a ninth because of this. So I'm like, it had its moment. But it all started with Ludwig van Beethoven, the dog, for sure. But the composer. This is where it all began. Beethoven's groundbreaking choral symphony, the Ninth, that everyone knows and loves, as Ashley said, also proved to be his last. He passed away a few years after the premiere, unable to finish, which was his surely most anticipated symphony, his 10th. He was just starting to write it when he passed away, and everyone was so eager because of how groundbreaking his 9th was. Composers everywhere, as we know, have tried to emulate him and, use his innovative orchestration and try to make symphonies just like his. But also, musicians tended to take the practice of dying after their 9th symphonies as well.
Well.
After Beethoven was the composer Anton Bruckner, an Austrian composer of the 19th century, or as I like to say, the 19th century Ashley Cassidy, because he fielded a lot of criticism for his habit of constantly revisiting and tinkering his already finished works because he thought they weren't quite perfect yet.
Okay, first of all, that's just called being a good producer, okay?
It is, and I'm only picking at you in admiration because your perfectionism leads to our podcast being exactly what it is supposed to be, and you are so talented and amazing, and I am so grateful for you. I'm just saying,
some people should take a vacation every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, some people should look out and
or they'll lose their minds.
Somebody help me. She's actually holding me hostage here with this American flag. You can't see. She has a weapon under the desk. Okay, anyway.
The flag has really come in handy this episode. It's dramatic
it is the prompt that just keeps on giving. It's so funny. Oh, so perfectionist. He would send out his completed work and then still go back and tinker with it and be like, I'm re-releasing this. And yes, artists do that now.
Okay,
Taylor's version. Okay, we're back to our old days of this.
Take a vacation.
Taylor's version, except Anton Bruckner's version, he would just keep going back, and people in this day and age were like, no thanks.
Sometimes less is more.
Exactly. So he was critiqued a lot for this. And the urge to edit and perfect every piece of work eventually is what did him in. Bruckner's 9th symphony was unfinished when he died because he kept backtracking and revising the previous 8, and he couldn't fully move on to his 9th, which, from what people were able to find of it after his passing, was going to be something so special and wonderful, similar to Beethoven. It could have been his groundbreaking moment, but he never finished it. And the curse did not feel like waiting. It was like, you're mid-9th, but you are doing some crazy things going back and revisiting these other ones. So we're going to off you. That's what the universe said. And the curse took him. Then there was Antonín Dvořák. I'm sure I said that incorrect, but this is a Czech composer who had a very popular 9th symphony as well, called From the New World. But what was interesting about this was at the time when it was released, it was billed as his 5th. And so even though he died right after making it, maybe whispers were starting to fill the air of composers dying after their 9th or around the time of their 9th. But everyone was like, oh, well, this was definitely this man's best work, similar to Beethoven, but it was his 5th, so I guess the 9th thing isn't real. Then it was discovered after his death that From the New World is actually his 9th. The public did not know it at the time, but fate did. The curse did. The New World Symphony was the last symphony he ever composed, but there were actually 4 symphonies discovered that just hadn't made it out into the public eye, but that were written and filed in his personal work that were found post-mortem.
You cannot beat a curse.
You can't beat a curse. Okay.
You can't trick a curse.
You can't trick it. I thought that was so... I love hearing those parts of stories where everybody was like, oh, it was the 5th. It really was the 9th. Nope, there were 4 filed away, 4 originals before the public work. It feeds into the curse. It knew. Then there was Gustav Mahler. Mahler was the first to believe in this superstition. Obviously, there were, whispers people had observed, but he was the first to be like, I am calling this out. Is anybody seeing what's happening with the Ninth Symphony? Like, something's going on. He liked to stir the pot. He liked some drama, and we like that about Gustav Mahler. He wanted the mayhem. So he started freaking out, learning about these composers who had passed, and he started to develop an obsession. Not only was he spouting it out to everybody, but it consumed his entire life. So after he completed his 8th symphony, Mahler came up with a clever plan, and he wrote a piece of music called, again, this will be special, Das Lied von der Erde.
Sure.
That's my German moment. And it was a symphony in everything but name. He refused to actually call it a symphony, and he said it was more of a song cycle, quote unquote, is what he was calling it. So he gave it a name that didn't end in symphony, gave it its own language, said it was a song cycle, tried to get around it. So he finished writing that fake out symphony and thought, like, I'm doing okay. However, towards the end of composing, he did contract pneumonia. That was like sort of under control for the moment, but then the powers that be didn't buy in to Mahler's trick, and as he sat down to start on his 10th symphony, pneumonia fully consumed him, and he did die without getting even like a quarter of the way into his 10th symphony, even though he thought he had done everything right, completed the 9th, thought he found a way around it.
Well, as I said, always you can't trick a curse.
Can't trick a curse. Nope, you sure can't. Then there's a few honorable mentions. There's a whole list I can get into, but one more that was of note was someone named Ralph Vaughan Williams, who had a huge, productive, amazing career as a composer and musician, but amidst his many ballets, film music, choral settings, all of these symphonies, he only produced 9. And 3 weeks after the premiere of the 9th, he died suddenly. And even though he was 86 at the time, so people try to be like, hello, natural causes, like he was old, and that was very old for the time. Everybody around him, family and friends, came out in journals or whatever saying that it was so abnormal and that he was like the healthiest 86-year-old you could ever know. He was totally fine the day before.
Fine.
Just like going on and on about his life. And so everybody said it was still like one of the most shocking things in the world, and just, again, fed into the curse.
I'll get you.
There is American-Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg, which Schoenberg is a very popular name in the composer community. He was very influenced by Gustav Mahler, our superstition king, who I mentioned earlier. He was very influenced by his music and tried to kind of recreate it in his own. And he once said in an essay about the curse, because he was just as invested in the curse as he was his, mentor inspiration. He was quoted as saying, "He who wants to go beyond it must pass away. It seems as if something might be imparted to us in the 10th symphony, which we ought not yet to know, for which we are not ready. Those who have written a 9th stood too close to the hereafter." And that was his quote before knowing that so many musicians would go on to compose beyond
Mystical
the 9th.
king. I love it.
But I thought it was interesting to quote him because I kind of liked that he was like, there's something we aren't supposed to know in the 10th.
Something happening.
But also, Schoenberg didn't even try to come close to writing 9 because he was like, I fully believe. But on top of it, he was so superstitious, this dude, that he had a fear of the number 13. And then poor homeboy died on Friday the 13th.
Oh.
So it just feels like he was buying the curse, and then he died by another curse, and he was just into the composer's curse.
What if we all die of curses?
All of us.
Scientists don't know. We shouldn't necessarily have to die or age.
Sure.
Technically, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to age and die, but we do. Because we're all cursed.
We're all cursed, and is it because you wrote your 9th symphony? Is it because you fear the number 13 and you're going to die?
Is it because you showed up at a crossroads. Oh, by the way, crossroads.
That's still one of my favorite.
Another cursed crooner. So I was looking for a picture of Papa Legba earlier, like last week, because Amy and I, in our bonus episode, I mentioned Papa Legba. We talked about Papa Legba for a second. So I was trying pictures of Papa Legba, and I was also trying to find out what he was called. It's actually a Loa, or an Iowa, but I knew that like there was a Haitian word for what Papa Legba was. It wasn't like ghost or spirit. But anyways,
right.
Papa Legba is the entity that you meet at a crossroads. So like when what was his name? Yeah, that cursed crooner.
I know, I'm terrible that I don't remember it, but my brain is
fucking
mush.
anything. I don't
just
remember.
Go back and listen to it as the musician, that blues singer at the crossroads.
But when he met him at the crossroads, he might have been meeting Papa Legba.
That is a wonderful addition to that story, and thank you so much. And we need to go back and just splice this in. We need to go back and perfect our work.
How about no, Lauren?
How about no? And
the Ninth Symphony is cursed, and you should never write one.
Yes. And there are, like, again, you can, like, go onto, like, any Google search and look up, like, who was cursed? And there is, like, about 9 other composers listed. And, like, I'm not going to go into all of their stories because they all start to be similar towards the end, but they all had the Ninth Symphony curse. And then, of course, I need to talk about both sides because we are equal opportunists here on this podcast. Yes. The breakers of the curtsy of the curse. Mozart, ever heard of him? Wrote 41 symphonies. Then there is Joseph Haydn, Austrian composer, wrote a whopping 104 symphonies. There is Leif Segerström, who wrote 327 symphonies. Okay. So it's like, yes,
we don't even need 327 symphonies. They can't all be that good.
They can't be that good. Are they Beethoven's? Are they some of these people's most groundbreaking, amazing work? Like, maybe you didn't do good enough, and that's why you weren't really taken by the curse. And again, just my final quote is, in 2012, composer Philip Glass was quoted as saying,
"Love Philip
Everyone
Glass.
is still afraid of their Ninth Symphony. It is a jinx that people still think about constantly." Simple quote, nothing to like leave you with anything eerie, but I just appreciated that he said that, and it seems to be the case on many of the forums. I was kind of like,
yeah, it definitely
looking
seems
at of
like
people saying
that,
like, we still think about it, we still talk about it, and like if you are like thinking you're creating your best work in the Ninth Symphony, then like
watch
you start
your back.
to slow your roll. Exactly. So
well, yeah, that's something that like the general public probably wouldn't know about, but someone who is into a niche topic like symphonies or composers, like you would know simply by like knowing when these composers died, that they all died
right
in, around, or directly after their Ninth Symphony. I'm sure that is something that's very popular. Philip Glass, I believe, Pruitt Itko, he did the music, the music for Candyman, I believe. That beautiful opening.
No, that sounds right. Because that music is so good. Sorry, I'm eating a chicken nugget, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah, he did the 1992 opening credit. Well, the score, but like the beautiful opening credit sequence was Philip Glass.
Beautiful.
See, I can remember some shit. Okay, my
honestly,
brain's not
like,
total
way to have
mush.
that rattling around in your brain. And also, we're gonna trust any motherfucking thing that Philip Glass says because of that beautiful music in Candyman.
Beautiful music in Candyman.
So the curse is real.
Curse is definitely real, as is every other curse we talk about on the show. Okay, that's all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. Do us a favor. Do us a real huge favor. Go over to www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast and join our Patreon, because you'll get bonus episodes, 2 bonus episodes every single month. You kidding me? 2 bonus episodes every single month. You'll get discounts on merchandise, and you will get divination readings, personal divination readings. You want a divination reading? You have a crush? You have a job interview? You want to know something about your future? You want to try and connect with a loved one who's passed on? Send us a message on our Patreon. If you are a paying patron At any tier, you can request a divination reading.
Oh, and how fun if we both got to do a reading from afar and compare like we did in the episode. Like, give it to us.
People charge good money for divination readings, and we're telling you we'll do it for free. Well, we'll do it for a donation.
Well,
I have the wheel ready. Look what I prepared at work today. I found my login and I logged in and I was prepared.
I'm so proud of you. Remember that last episode? It was so upsetting.
It was so upsetting. So we're going to spin the wheel.
Everyone was fine.
We're going to see what we're going to end our show with. Is it going to be a random question? Is it going to be a tarot card? Is it going to be a hive mind? Let's fucking hope not. Let's see, shall we? Spin wheel. Inspirational quote. Now, here's what's great about this. I actually found an inspirational quote bot that will randomly generate.
Okay, that's probably better than the bullshit I have. Let's do it.
Inspirational quotes is called Inspirobot. I've never used it.
Ooh, I like that even more. This is going to be fun.
Let's see, shall we? Generate. It's going.
Let's see what you're going to get, weirdos.
It's taking a while. Okay. Okay, well, this is interesting. Hold on, I have to get a screenshot of this before I forget, and then I don't have it, and you can't see it, because this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. First of all, it's a paraglider. But he's paragliding over a field, and it looks like the field's on fire. Concerning. And the inspirational quote that this AI bot generated for us is as follows. An antichrist can be a dentist, but a dentist can also be an antichrist. Or maybe not.
What?
Ma'am.
This is a Wendy's. You have to get out. Like, I don't.
In what world is that? You know what? I think.
Is that inspirational?
What it's trying to say to us, anyone can be dark and evil. Anyone. It could be any one of us. But all dentists
the Antichrist
are dark and evil.
I was gonna say
every one of them.
Don't say the or not
or maybe
at the end of the quote, because every dentist is pure evil.
Fucking evil.
You hurt me.
Multiple
you take all
episodes
my money
on teeth. No. Okay. Anyways, we love you guys. We hope that
love you so much.
Quote gets you through your week. And until next time, keep it weird.